Hey guys, so we have finally finished my How to Write Faster series, and I'm going to be doing probably some more random writing videos until I decide to begin my next series. I've got several planned. One of them is very, very long, probably going to have like 20 parts to it, maybe not that many, maybe like 10 or 15. But I really hope it's going to be detailed to help you guys. But today's topic is a single video that we're going to do. Today's video is about, is a writing degree worth it? Should you go to college for writing? Should you not? And I'm going to share details about my own college writing experience and list out the pros and cons of getting a writing degree, basically. Basically, for those of you who don't know, I went to a college online, so I stayed at home because I'm a homebody, that's what I do, and I went to Full Sail University online. So a lot of my professors and fellow students, they actually, after you graduate, like they invite you to this special group on Facebook, and so I was able to join those groups, which was like really helpful and really kind of a good starting point and a resource. But let's get right into my experience at Full Sail University Online. But first of all, small disclaimer, keep in mind that this is one college. This is my personal experience. Every college is unique, and since every writer is also unique, your personal experience with college may or may not be different, depending on where you go and what happens there and stuff like that, and what the school is like and what they focus on and everything else. So again, this is completely different. This is just my personal experience, and the cons that I have or the positives that I have may vary for you and would probably vary for you in your personal experience. So, my personal writing degree is a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Creative Writing for Entertainment. So essentially that means writing for entertainment, which we touched based on a lot of different things, a lot heavy-handedly focused on writing scripts for video games, for TV shows, for film, and for what was the other one? There's one more. But writing a lot of scripts, basically, and learning how to write directly for the entertainment industry. So we did not focus a whole lot on novel writing, and there wasn't a whole lot of stuff with that. So if you're going to go to college for writing, I highly recommend researching your degree before you go in. I mean, I obviously did, but making sure that if you want to learn more about novel writing, that you join a degree that focuses on it, and that you make sure, email people, ask questions, make sure it's focused around novel writing rather than a degree that's more focused on script writing. So that brings up my first con about my personal degree and experience with college, was that it was focused too heavy-handed on script writing, which is helpful in many ways, but it's not going to help me with my novel writing, and I wanted to be like an author, you know, and that wasn't really helpful at all. So the second con and thing to consider, I don't know if I should do things to consider cons, but whatever. So one thing to consider when you're thinking about college or not college with your writing is think about the fact that not every writer goes to college, and you as a writer don't necessarily need to go to college. Most authors generally, I would say 80 to 90% of them don't actually go to college or get a degree, basically. And so if you're wanting to write to become an author, you don't technically need a degree. You don't have to go to college. You can just write and do your thing. So that's the first thing to consider. The second thing to consider on the opposite end would be, do you need to learn skills from the degree program you want to go into, and will they help you? So if you went into a degree program that focused more on novel writing, on how to create a plot, how to weave a plot, how to grow your characters, grammar, and, a basic, like a English class or an English degree, anything like that, basically, would actually help you improve your writing craft itself, and would be, might be something you would want to consider. Although a third thing to consider is that could you find that same information online for free? Because college is expensive, it does take money, and could you just watch or take a class on YouTube? Could you subscribe to a thing like Skillshare or watch other authors' videos like on YouTube and stuff like that and learn how to do it yourself in other ways? Is there another way for you to learn the same exact skills, or do you need the degree do you need college and a degree in order to achieve this? For me, I've been writing since I was 10. So back to my personal experience, I knew the basics of how to write a story. I knew how to put a plot together. Now there was obviously things that I needed to know, but, I was also a very heavy-handed reader. So if you're a reader, you know how plots are woven together more. And if you're a reader, if you're a writer and a reader, when you're reading other authors' books, like, you can pick up on their writing style, on the habits that they do, and you learn writing by reading other authors and trying to mimic the style that they do and the tricks that they use and stuff like that is a good way. Okay, trying to mimic their style and kind of use the same tricks that they do and the same things that they do is actually a good way of teaching yourself how to write. So basically, option number 4 to consider is, can you teach yourself this? Can you learn this on your own? Do you have to go to college to learn how to write and to figure out what you need to know? The option number 5 to consider is publishing, marketing. How much do you actually know about publishing and marketing? Is it worth it to get a writing degree? If you already know what you're doing, if you don't need to know certain things, if you can find it out on your own, or if you can learn it by reading, or if you can learn it by joining classes that are free online or with a subscription service like Skillshare, or if you can just watch YouTube videos to learn what it is you need to know about writing itself, would it be a better option to get a marketing degree, to go into marketing, to learn how to market your craft better, to learn how to sell your books, how to gain readers, that sort of thing? Are there online classes for that you could take elsewhere that wouldn't necessarily require a degree and all those extra expenses? That's number 5 to consider. So my personal experience was we had online classes, so we would have one class per month and we would keep doing it. I joined in September of 2013 and I finished my degree, I think, in the spring of 2016 or thereabouts. Okay, so I had certain classes were requirements and certain classes were focused more on my degree. I took English Composition 1 and 2, which was, a basic English class. Of course, I had math and stuff like that. So, basically, I had different genre classes that taught us about writing in specific genres. One of them was a fantasy and science fiction class. We looked at a lot of different fantasy and sci-fi stuff, essentially. And every week in every class, we would usually have what was called a discussion board that we would have to do. And so, and then for every class you'd have either a story to submit or something like that. So, you had different prompts to answer about yourself. One discussion board that I had for a fantasy and science fiction class was about what kind of a fantasy story are you going to make, high fantasy or whatever, that sort of stuff. Is it going to be modern fantasy, that sort of thing. So, the other classes that I had, the other genre classes, so I had fantasy and science fiction, I had horror, mystery, and suspense, which was my least favorite. Well, one of my least favorites, because I don't write horror, but mystery and suspense wasn't too bad. And so you go over a lot of just writing in the genre, and for these genre classes, you'd have to write a short story within the setting of each of those genres, basically. Another one was comedy and tragedy. Literally, comedy and tragedy was one class, and it was actually really, really fun and creative. So you invented a story, and you got to pick either whether you wanted to write a comedy or a tragedy. And so you picked one and wrote a story for it by week 2, I think. And then we, of course, we went over more lessons, and then by the end week, your final would be flipping it. So if you wrote a comedy, you would end up having to turn it into and rewrite it to be a tragedy. Or if you wrote a tragedy first, you'd have to flip it around and make it a comedy. And at the same time that I was doing this, I was actually working on my Valiant series. So a lot of times I would have a class and we'd have to invent a story for it. So I would pick one of the Valiant books that I hadn't started yet, and I would work on it in that class as a short story, and it would help me develop the world, and it would help me kind of build the story. And then on my own, in my private time, I would just continue working on the story. So in my comedy and tragedy class, I actually picked one of the later Valiant books called Raider, which is about a pirate, and I made it a tragedy at first. So I wrote the short story, the version of it as a tragedy, and then I, for the final, I twisted it and made it a comedy. And so the book itself actually ended up, when I wrote the actual novel version of itself, I took both of those ideas and blended them together. So my genre classes, the 4 that I had, were extremely helpful to me because it taught me a lot about those different genres and everything. And I was able to use those techniques in the books that I was writing at the time. And it actually gave me a lot of premises for different stories, and a lot of things to develop. 2 classes that were absolutely vital to the Valiant series and what I was developing was developing new worlds. Was one class, which was about world building and developing your new worlds, basically. And then another one was called Communications and Cartography. That sounds complicated, and it's not actually learning how to, well, it's sort of cartography, but basically cartography is the art of map making, or if you will. And so in that one, the idea was to take your story, you make a map of your story, and then you take your map and we went over how to make a map and all that stuff. So you made a map for your book, and then you took that map and put numbers on it to plot out where the plot takes place at. Like if you had a world and you made an island and you made a port, for instance, I would put like a number 1 on the island because that's where the book starts and that's where this plot line happens. And then I would put a 2 on the port because that's the second plot point, that's where this happens. So you took like a beat sheet of your book, the main plot points, basically, and you would number them and put them on your map according to the order of which your book take place and where your characters travel. And again, I used Raider for that one because when I took this class, I was still working on Raider, or getting ready to work on Raider. And so I took that and made a map of the world, and because he was a pirate, he was traveling around in his ship, and I was able to outline my book based on where they were going on the map, and it really helped me develop that story and figure out a visual of where their journey was and where they were sailing to, especially since it was a pirate story. It really helped me develop that, and my Raider would not be the book that it is without those classes that were vital, the comedy and tragedy one and the communications and cartography. Now the developing new worlds one, that one was about basically world building and researching for world building, and all of the information in that class was to basically teach you how to world build and how to research and take different things from real life and how to implement it in your world building. And so I picked one of the other Valiant books called Remnant, and I picked the 1920s as my time period. So I did a lot of research. Like one of the projects that we had to do was going through your time period that you picked to mirror your world, and you break it down what the time period was like. So you went through the social rules of what that time period was, the rules, interactions, events, and celebrations that they had. The second part was their lifestyle, so their clothing, their art and music, and what it was like. The technology that they had, so the weapons, and then the transportation that they had. Dining room back basically at home, and then dining in restaurants. Structure, so like the design and architecture that they had back then, and you research all of this, put it in a document, you sent it in, and you use that in your world. And so when I made Remnant, basically the world was based on the 1920s and based in the industrial era, and the world and the city itself in that book is so much more vivid, and the culture is the most cultural I built in the Valiant series because of that class and because of the research that I learned how to do. And that's when I learned how to research for your stories, and where researching for your stories, even if you're making up a fantasy world off the top of your head, researching for it will make it so much more vivid and so much more visible, because you're taking a world or a place that actually exists and you're implementing it with your own ideas and making it completely new. So that was one class that was also very necessary. So then I did the writer's workshop classes, which was film and writer's workshop number 1, which was film, writing workshop number 2, which was TV, writing workshop number 3, which was animation and comics, and then writer's workshop number 4 was video games. And so that's when we learned how to script write for all 4 of those things: film, TV, animation, comics, and then film, video games. Those classes weren't as useful to me because I knew I wasn't going to script write. I didn't want to be a TV producer. I didn't want to, be a filmmaker. I do have the desire to write scripts for my books and hopefully to turn them into something one day, but not really that helpful. But it did teach me, the script writing in particular for film and TV was the most useful to me, because I know how to write a script now, and I had 2 books that I got. My textbooks for both of those classes have been astronomically helpful, because you don't know how to script write until you go through this class and go through the textbook that they give you, that I actually still use my textbook today, writing my script for Immoral as I work on it. So another one was called Transmedia, and that class was super helpful to me with learning that you can use Transmedia to expand your world and make it bigger than just a book. And what Transmedia actually is, for instance, Star Wars, you don't just have the movies. You have movies, you have TV shows, you have video games, you have merchandise, you have online games. And so basically the idea with Transmedia is that you translate your story across multiple platforms. For instance, you create social media for your characters, you create different online games for your thing, and you can do that by creating a game and sort of taking people through your world, by like starting off on like a fake website for your book, and then like, hey guys, we need your help, the world's gonna be destroyed, these emails here have been sent as a threat, and then you basically like sign up for a fake Gmail account and like all this complicated stuff to like do a Transmedia game. And it was actually really fun. It's not something that I'm comfortable using or doing a whole lot of, but I did make a Transmedia game for the Valiant series, and I had everything up and going and everything else, and created everything I needed, and it was really complicated, but it was really fun, and it taught me a lot about interactive fiction as well. So I had another class that I thought was the funnest class was Psychology of Play, and it talked about how basically like adults need to play just like children do, and that helps you be more creative, and it helps you actually release a lot of stress, and it's actually better for you even if you're not a writer, like whatever your job is, to actually play a lot more. And so you had to go through like the types of games that you would like and the different things you would like to play as a child, and basically pick one of those activities and do it, and then write about your experience as you went through it. So I went through all of this. This is a lot, but these are the classes, the highlights that I went through in college, that I went through my personal experience. So the pros, we'll get to the pros first. So the first positive thing is that it helped me write the Valiant series. As I was going through a lot of these classes, you had to develop a story or whatever for this class or that class. And so having a writing degree and going through this degree itself developed these stories with me, because I had a professor, I had the other students, I had resources available to me to help me plot out these stories, to teach me how to research, to teach me how to write in certain genres, to teach me techniques that I would not have learned otherwise. And so the Valiant series would not be what it is without these classes that I took. And honestly, this degree helped me develop the Valiant series, honestly, more than anything else really did, more than it did anything else for me. It helped with the Valiant series. The pro number 2 is the techniques that it actually did teach me with writing in different genres, world building, and researching. It really gave me a lot of new skills, and it gave me a lot of new skills and prepared me for different things. The third thing, speaking of preparing, pro number 3 with a writing degree is it prepared me for turning it into an actual job. I didn't know I was a hobby writer. I didn't take writing seriously, and I needed something to teach me how to take it seriously as a career, not just as a hobby writer, not just as a fun, casual writer. And it took the discipline of these classes and this degree in order to teach me how to make it serious, how to make it a full-time career. And honestly, without this degree, I would not have turned it into a career. And it also prepared me for what to face in the writing industry as well, as I turned it into a real job. So the fourth pro is that it helped me prepare for my freelancing career. At the time, I did not know it, and at the time I had no idea that I would become a freelancer, but all the research I had to do for my assignments in this degree was absolutely crazy. There was so much research, and without that, I would not have developed my researching skill, which is vital to what I do when I write articles for people online. And now I know how to research, and I know how to do it well, and that is kind of my job as a freelancer, is to research and then write what they want me to write. And I would not have had that skill without this degree. So the pro number 5 with a writing degree kind of goes hand in hand with that, is as you're preparing to graduate, you have a lot of they prepare you, you actually put all of your stuff that you wrote for them together in a portfolio to create, so that you have a portfolio to share with people when you're trying to get a job. And it actually sets up a portfolio for you and gives you a lot of experience that you would not get elsewhere. Trying to make a portfolio on your own is a pain in the behind. You're not only trying to get the experience that you need to make a portfolio as a writer, but how to make a portfolio and how to do it professionally. You'd probably have to pay money for people to teach you how to do that online, basically. And the degree, that's your final class, is putting your portfolio together. There was one class to put it together, and then there was one class to edit your portfolio and make it better. So that's pro number 5. Pro number 6 is that it actually opened the door for freelancing work, because one class made you think seriously about it, helped you develop a plan. Okay, what is your plan? How are you going to get a job? Where are you going to look? What are you going to look into? What are you going to do to get a job? Who are you going to ask? Who are you going to submit to? Are you going to novel write? Are you going to script write? Are you going to film write? Who are you going to submit to? And you had to create a document and list out the publishers that you were going to submit to. If you were film writing, you'd have to write down who are you going to submit your scripts to, and you had to write out a publishing plan with, no matter what area you wanted to go into, you had to make a publishing plan or a plan for your career plan. And it made you think seriously, okay, how am I going to take this from college and how am I going to turn it into a job? And with me, it actually enabled me to research a lot of freelancing, how am I going to actually get money writing? And so I did so much research on that, and I found out that writers can freelance online. And I found the site called Hire Writers, and I started working for them. I got hired by them for a time, and it actually provided me some extra money, and it was the first time I'd ever gotten paid directly to write. And I would not have had that experience without college and without this degree. So those are the 6 pros for writing. So I'll put them back up on the screen here for you guys to see and go over here in a minute in a direct comparison. So now let's go over the cons. The cons of the degree, honestly, the first and major one is that it was a lot of money. I'm in a lot of debt now because of college. We all know college is expensive. So the expense, I haven't really decided if it was worth it or not. I feel like it personally was worth it because of all the skills and all the positives that it gave me, but it is super expensive. So before you even think about going to college, of course, you have to check your finances and find out if you think it's going to be worth it to spend this much money to get a writing degree or not. Number 2 is the writing degree itself doesn't really do anything for you. It's the classes, it's the lessons that you learn in the classes that actually helped me the most. The degree itself did nothing. With certain industries or jobs that you go into, you have to have a degree to become that thing. You can't become a doctor or get hired until you have a certain degree, that sort of thing. Same with a lot of other jobs that you have. But with writing, you can write, you can publish without having a degree. So the degree itself doesn't get you the job, and it really doesn't do anything. The most for me the degree has been is a credential and a way for people to take me seriously as an author, because I actually do have a degree. But other than that, it doesn't actually get you hired, and it doesn't guarantee you a job. So the degree itself isn't actually helpful and doesn't really do much of anything for you. So that's con number 2. Con number 3 is that the specific degree that I got focused more on writing for entertainment, which was script writing. I did learn a lot of techniques that I needed and techniques that I implemented into the Valiant series that made it unique and special. I had a lot of resources and a lot of help, and a limitless amount of an unlimited amount of help that I had going into this, and like I said, it prepared me for the future, but it didn't focus as much on novel writing as I would have liked it to. And then the 4th and last con of this writing degree is that I had it just a second ago, it didn't focus on marketing as much as I needed. And so when I went into publishing, it did prepare me to submit to publishers, and I was able to get accepted shortly after that, because I knew more about what I was doing, and it prepared me for all the submission stuff. But it did not prepare me for the marketing side of being an author at all. And so I was at a loss, and I had no idea what I was doing when I first tried to self-publish by myself. So it was zero help on that. And so if you want to learn how to market directly, go out and get you a marketing degree, because a writing degree is not going to help you with that at all, as far as I'm aware. And if there is a degree out there that does writing and marketing, that's great. Take it, do it, whatever. So those are the pros, those are the cons. I've listed them out on the screen so we can directly compare. There were 6 pros, there are 4 cons. But ultimately the decision to go to college, whether you should get a degree or not, is up to you and your circumstances, who you are as a writer, who you are as a person, and what you can handle, what you can't handle, and whether you think it's going to be useful to you or not. But I hope that talking about my experience with college, what I went through, and listing out all the pros and all the cons can help you make a better decision on if you're going to get a degree in writing or not. It's not something to immediately dismiss. I know everybody usually thinks you don't need a degree to write. Just go, just write, just publish something. But there are skills that it does teach you, and so it is something to at least consider and not immediately just shut down because nobody does it. I guarantee you people do it, and it is helpful. So I would suggest at least thinking about it and considering it if you haven't already considered it. The least, because it does have helpful points to it. As I said, I have 6 pros for it, and 6 reasons why it was a good thing and how it helped me, versus 4 negative things that I didn't like about it. So for me, my degree was worth it. Going to college and the lessons that I learned in college was worth it to me. That is my personal experience. That is what I've learned. I really hope that breaking it down for you has helped you if you're in the middle of trying to make a decision on whether you should go to college to be a writer or whether you should just start writing. So I hope this helps. If you liked this video, please be sure to actually like it. That helps with, views and stuff. And if you think other writers could use this advice, or if you know somebody who is struggling to make a decision on whether they want to get a degree or not, please share this with them and share this around with your other writing friends as well. And be sure to subscribe. Be sure to subscribe for more writing videos every Monday. Thanks guys for watching so much. Bye.